Welcome to Geekified's Top 5 of 2021, a year that looked at 2020 and said, hold my beer. One highlight of 2021, though, was cinemas reopened, and this time it wasn't just to show Tenet. We saw Marvel step into their shakiest phase so far, A24 to make the audiences fall in love with a lamb, and finally we saw how Daniel Craig's Bond bit the bullet, or in his case, a missile. Spoilers. So here tonight, we're going to count down from 5 to 1 our favorites of 2021. Kicking off at number 5, we have a slot which is tied. We've got The Suicide Squad, Pig, and Dune. So we're going to jump over, talk to Nathan all about Nicolas Cage and his Pig.
Yeah, Pig. I'm surprised it made it in. That must be me and you, Chris.
Yeah, it must be.
I think we're probably the only people in the UK that watched it as well. This is like we said when we did our review of it. It's a non-action film. Some really good acting, beautifully shot. Just a really, it's like an old school independent cinema. It's just a weird bit of cinema making that's just really, really good.
Yeah, I didn't even hear about this movie. Like I had to Google it 5 minutes ago just to find out who was in it. What's it all about other than just action, non-action action movie?
It's a guy. He lives out. He's like a hermit. He lives out in the forest by himself. And this guy comes in. He's got a pig that hunts truffles for him, and this pig gets stolen. Pignapped, as it were, and he goes into the town to get his pig back.
Fair. That does not sound like top 5 material. But
it really doesn't when you put it like that, though.
Yeah. Well, apparently the tagline was Nicolas Cage back at his best.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Nicolas Cage has always been best, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, when was his best?
Yeah, he's great. But yeah, it's definitely on my list to watch. So I do want to watch it.
Yeah,
so I'll definitely watch it now.
Okay, so we also this is a tied space. So we're going to go talk to Chris about Dune. You put Dune the highest up out of any list.
Oh, really? Oh, surprising. I just think it was just one of those massive Denis Villeneuve fan. Like, I think his films are gorgeous. He gets everything right. And it was just an epic beholding for the eyes. I just thought it was absolutely stunning. There wasn't a single bad actor in it. Everything was perfect. I think it just came out just at a bit of a weird moment in time, obviously, with all the cough virus kicking about. I think it wasn't one of the films that, if it was any other time, if there wasn't a virus, I think this film probably would have done tremendously. It did do really well, but I think it would have been so much better in the public eye. I think a lot of people would have watched it at home instead.
Yeah, I remember. I think I was the first out of all 6 of us to watch Dune. And I think, I immediately jumped on the chat and was like, everyone needs to watch Dune. But somehow it had completely left my head in the 2 months since it came out. Like, I barely could tell you a plot detail of it other than space, flying ships that look really cool, and big worms. I don't know how you managed to turn such an interesting story into something that just completely left my head. And it's a shame because I love Dune. And I think that Dune will become a more solidified film when part 2's there. And I think together it will be one of the biggest cinematic epics. But at the moment, it fell a wee bit flat for me.
Yeah, that's my thought. I put it as my number 5, but that's why I even had to change it for something else. But I agree, I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was a lot of great acting, a lot of spectacle. But the same as you, like, I couldn't really tell you exactly what the beginning, middle, and end of that first bits might be. It doesn't really exist in its own. That's a wee bit different for you in the way that when I was watching it, sometimes I was getting quite bored. It wasn't until after kind of reflection I was like, nah, that was great, that was great. But yeah, nothing really particularly happened apart from kind of go, well, here's this next, and it without the whole of the thing together. But in a trilogy like that, like even like Lord of the Rings or something, each film still has its own merit on its own, where I don't really feel that did. I think it's too much like the first half or something that you've not, and no resolution, nothing to kind of hang on to.
Yeah.
Nathan screwed his face up there. Did you fart?
This only just missed my top 5. It was hovering around, and I moved it around a few times. But no, I thought it's the closest thing I've seen to the original Star Wars, and Star Wars came out. That sort of grand space opera epic type thing. warring families and all this sort of stuff. I just thought it was a really well made, beautiful movie. And I think I disagree with you a bit, Mark. I really like the way the first one's going to flow straight into the second one. I think that's a really cool thing.
I think that's what's going to be its linchpin. I think that's going to be
No.
what will make it an epic. Is the story is going to be seamless in that respect. I think the problem with it just now is the same as what Ryan's saying. It doesn't feel like it's got a middle ending, beginning, you know, but in the right order, beginning, middle,
But I
end.
just said that it's not like Star Wars, like the first one, A New Hope. That has its own story and its own. You can sit down and watch just Star Wars, do you know what I mean, and be like,
Yeah,
oh, that was a good story. And then the next one comes. I feel with doing, and don't get me, I put it in my top 5. I did enjoy it, especially in Reflection, but it doesn't, like, it will take for when they all come out, I don't know if it's maybe 2 or 3, and watching them all together to get it, because it's not a story in its own.
So interesting.
I think with the thing with the size of the book, obviously, I mean, it's a pretty meaty book. So, you know, if you're going to actually respect it for what it was, you'd have to split it into 2, just because that world and obviously the books after the world is so vast. You know, you wouldn't be able to do what they did to do the first time round and ram it onto the one film, which turned into an absolute car crash. You know.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm glad they didn't do that, though.
Yeah, so I think that's what makes that. I think that's what makes it more satisfying, splitting it off when they did, because you can actually give the full thing, the characters, the actual universe of Dune, the respect it kind of deserves. Because the books are obviously extremely popular. There is a cult following with Dune as well. So I think them doing it as a 2-part was probably the best decision they did with it.
Completely. So we'll move on to
I think that the first part of the first Dune there was the story of I forget the name of the character, Timothy Chalamet's character. It's him in with the royal family, and the next one's going to be him with Zendaya's people. You know, so I think I thought it did actually finish quite a good point, but maybe I'm just a weirdo.
I mean, the fact that you can't remember what either of the 2 tribes are called, not.
Yeah, but I
think everyone walked out of Star Wars in 1977 and was like, Jedi, you know. it was precise and to the point. But we'll move on because we have another movie to talk about in this 5th slot, and that is The Suicide Squad, James Gunn's reimagining of what was David Ayer's most terrible movie in 2016. The Suicide Squad was The Suicide Squad was a movie that I thought was going to flop really hard. I think if we went back through our chat, you'll see how much I'm slagging it, going, this isn't going to work. No, why are they doing this the second time? And well, I ate humble pie because it made it into my top 5, and it made it further up your top 5, Ryan. So what was it you loved about The Suicide Squad?
It was just fun, man. It was just fun. I was kind of saying I didn't expect much from it. I thought it was maybe a wee bit gimmicky, just like all these characters, a lot are going to die kind of thing. And it was just fun, man. I see one of the things, but as you were kind of saying about doing, I did put it higher up, but I'm thinking over it now, and there's not. I mean, it didn't have much of a story. There's not much there that I can hold on to. Like, this beat was great at that. But I just remember through it all, like, John Cena was great. Idris Elba and all that, their kind of interactions together. The Daft stuff, was it Polka Dot Man or something? Was that his actual name?
Polka Dot Man, yeah.
That was kind of more out there and funnier than expected. I just remember being kind of taken off guard quite a lot and watching it. Just kind of things I didn't expect, and it was just entertaining. I just remember it was just a good laugh. So that's one of the reasons we're up there, because it genuinely just felt like a good time at the cinema again without being bogged down with anything. So I was quite happy with that. I know it's not really very deep in it, but it wasn't a very deep film. Do you know what I mean? But it's like, it was just fun.
Yeah, it's hard to explain a paddling pool in great depth, is it? But Tony, you seem to disagree with The Suicide Squad getting this top 5 placement.
Yeah, like we've talked about the first one, and this is meant to be the reboot, the recharge, because it's incredible material, and I think it just did slightly better than the first one. I wanted it to like completely recharge the franchise and everything, and I think it didn't. It was much more of the same. Yes, it was great characters. I loved like Ratcatcher and the little rat. That was really funny. But for them to sit down and try and reboot this franchise, for a good reason, because they knew they had something good there. I just don't think they've upped it. I think it's more of the same. And even with the extra clip, I was like, okay, that's fine. But then, the death with John Cena, and then spoiler if you haven't seen it, there's an extra clip where he's alive again, and I'm just like, what was the whole point of that? You've just you've undone all that hard work.
Yeah, I
so I was
completely agree.
disappointed again. I was like,
that always
better,
takes away.
not good.
Yeah, I think I did the exact same thing to Chris as we left the cinema, because that was the first movie we went and saw in 2021, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Squad. And to be honest, it might be really high up our list, or my list, especially because the hot dog we got at that cinema was really, really good. We've gone back to that cinema every time this year because it's such a good hot dog.
That's the next video we should do, is review
cinema food.
Cinema food. That's a good one. We totally should. We should actually just go in and review. Like, we won't say what cinema it was, like, just because obviously if we do a wee cinema review for the food. But
But yeah, so I think the other thing, a quick wee point on the Suicide Squad, was somehow King Shark felt more characterized than like what 6 movies of the Hulk has in Marvel. And yes, the Hulk has Professor Banner that, can give the human and characterization. But I think King Shark, for being completely CGI the entire movie, had more expression than the Hulk has had for all the Avengers movies. And I thought that was really impressive. I thought King Shark was going to fall completely flat, and they really surprised me there.
Yeah, it was really good. It worked really well.
That's what James Gunn does at his best. He gives almost inanimate objects character and heart.
You're completely right.
That's what he does. He's a god at that. And we've seen it with Guardians of the Galaxy, of characters we don't know, and instantly in one film we can love them. And I agree, the shark and the little rat I loved. So
that is our number 5. Nice and confusing there. 3 movies, 1 slot. Kind of like a terrible pornography movie. Right, so we will move on to our number 4, and it is His Majesty's Best, and it's No Time to Die, Bond's last outing as Daniel Craig. Strangely only made it onto 2 lists, but still made it onto the leaderboard due to its placement. Nathan is instantly against this, so let's jump to Nathan. What did you not like about No Time to Die?
It was just a very average action/spy film. It wasn't that good. It was just okay. I'm not a huge Bond fan. I thought the other Daniel Craig ones were better. I just thought it was very average and far too long. And I thought that Rami Malek's bad guy was very weak.
I actually agree with you there. It's a poor villain for a final outing of a Bond. But no, I don't know. I kind of loved it. I genuinely thought that they were going to screw this one up big time with how much woke culture marketing was around the whole thing, and it's got none of it. And I think it probably suffered because of their heavy leaning into it in the marketing. But I mean, Tony agrees with me that this Bond was top 5 worthy. So what is it you liked about this Bond, Tony?
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, if you look at our review of it, I agree with the weak character in terms of a villain, but maybe it was a bit of British nostalgia and going back to the cinema that kind of got me. And especially like the year that we've had, we needed that sort of flag flying sort of film in a way. But yes, I also agree with Nathan that I don't think it was the best of Daniel Craig's movies. I think Casino Royale is still in my definitely top 3 of all time James Bond films. But yeah, I think it was just a good all round solid film and a great ending. And obviously it was a very difficult thing to do, because how do you end, Daniel's like era as Bond in a good fashion? And
just blow him up, apparently.
This is the reason why it's not in my top 5. I'm sorry. Yeah. This is what, the more I thought about it, the more I decided that that's just a no. There's so many reasons why he shouldn't have died. We're on a Zoom call right now, and he could have just zoomed his daughter and lived on an island.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. He's only poisonous to 2 people on the entire planet. He could have hung out with the rest of the population in exchange of his daughter and his girlfriend. And yes, it would have sucked, but he would have been alive and could still be a secret agent. Okay. So yeah, it was a bit of a pathetic get out of jail free card, but I don't know. I'm with Tony on just the nostalgia, the Bond. Hans Zimmer's score is probably one of the best Bond scores in a very long time. I don't think there's been as good a score since the N64 GoldenEye score. That was a classic Bond score. And but yeah, anyone else want to say anything about No Time to Die before we let it die?
I think that, you don't think that in every one of these recent James Bond films, he's been retired and come back out of retirement every time. It's like, think of a new plot device, you know?
I mean, it's easier just to change the name on a script than rewrite it completely, Nathan. Come on, like.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, like, I mean, get with the times. It's Hollywood accounting. They don't actually pay the script writers. Okay, so that was James Bond and No Time to Die. But we shall move on, much as Bond will have to. And we're our top third is what I was going to say. Number 3, we have The Night House, which actually only made it onto 2 people's lists once again, which was myself and Nick. But I went to see it completely based on Nick's glowing review for it. So Nick, what is it you loved about The Night House?
So as far as like a psychological sort of horror-esque movie, it actually done really well. I thought the scenes where obviously the spirit, was either talking to her, when he placed his hand on her, all the sort of effects on it were really well done. And just to get her name, and I think considering Rebecca Hall's action scenes were pretty much just her herself with nothing around her. I think the fact that she was able to convey all that emotion between obviously losing her husband, obviously being haunted, and stalked by spirit. The fact she was able to actually convey all that and make it actually feel like you were there with her and going through those emotional roller coaster with her. I generally think that she does. I don't think she's been given enough credit for it. She's actually, it was hands down probably one of the best performances that she's done that I've seen in the cinema this year. It's definitely her with that.
I completely agree. Rebecca Hall is a powerhouse in that movie, and it's made it. I actually put it higher on my list than you put it on yours, Nick. And for me, I have not been scared at a movie since I was about 12. And there is a scene in The Night House, which in the cinema is so visceral, so intense. There's just this blaring wall of white noise going throughout the whole scene. And I was actually uncomfortable to the point that I was considering, is it okay for a grown man to put his hands over his ears inside a cinema to just make it stop? And I rewatched that scene at home, and it does not have the same effect. So if it ever gets reshown in the cinema, please drag yourself along, because it is definitely worth it. It's psychological, it's horror, and it is totally worth a £10 cinema ticket. Okay, so we'll move on to the number 2 in the list, and this is Nobody. I have not seen it, so I can't talk about it. So let's just move straight on to number 1. No, who wants to talk about Nobody?
I'll talk about Nobody for a second, man. I loved Nobody. Is my exact type of film, and I was blown away by it. And it's obviously got a lot of kind of similarities to John Wick, but the visceralness of it, the kind of the more reality kind of based fighting in a way, even though John Wick was quite good for that as well. I just absolutely loved it. I forget, God, what's the actor's name again? Better Call Saul guy. Nobody.
Bob Odenkirk.
Yeah. He was just perfect in the role, and from when it started for the first bit where he kind of his son has grabs the robber, and his son's kind of thinking he's taking a back seat and being a bit of a coward and all that kind of thing building up, and you see it through him. And it's not even like John Wick, he got his house and he's after him for that. It's more about him. Do you know what I mean? The burglary thing's sorted. It's nothing. It's just a couple of people that really are out of depth. It's not a big gang thing to go for. He goes and picks a fight on a bus and all that just because he's got this inner devil that has to do it. And it's not, do you know what I mean? He's the scene in the bus scene where he's getting beat up constantly, gets thrown through the window, picks himself up, and then hobbles back in. you can tell it was just absolutely amazing, man. All of it, and as I said, like earlier before we started recording, I had to pick my picks. I choose them around so much, but I ended up having to pick them and kind of what they made me feel more, and I kept swapping Nobody and Spider-Man around, but I landed on Nobody because genuinely a few times in the film I was like laughing and going like yes, like out to my TV, and that's kind of, yeah, I just thought it was absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, I just love the fact, I mean, I type it, I love those films. Obviously, we are geekified and we do tend to sort of focus on certain films like that, the majority of the stuff that we watch and talk about, and I'm glad that I did squeeze it in before this, and it was a great film, and yeah, it's very John Wick-esque, but it wouldn't have hit my top 5, and I've mentioned this, that the fact that it's kind of based on a true story, because Odenkirk in the opening scene actually happened to him, where he actually did, his house got broken into, and the police came, and he felt frustrated that he didn't protect in an American style way his house, and it stayed with him for ages. About being manhood and being manly and stuff, and then he imagined what he would have done, and this is what this film is.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that he sat that and he went to obviously a producer and went, "This is my idea. This happened to me. Can you make it happen?" And they went, "Yeah, I love that." And the fact my missus doesn't really watch films like this, and she was shouting because she loves Van Gogh, and the painting. She was screaming for the painting not to get damaged. Like, pick the painting up, pick the painting up. So little details like that. And that was a good Easter egg because the baddie in it was in the film, Van Gogh, in 2018. Okay. So I love that little Easter egg as well. It was just really cool.
Yeah, no, it was, and as you said, as John Wick, but I said it, I thought it was the visceral kind of grounded stuff with it, man, was just, you're just wincing at almost every move and all that, and it's, do you know what I mean? That's, things wouldn't be pretty, and I think I said before, I kind of related to like the bus scene in Shang-Chi, and I watched Shang-Chi after I watched Nobody. I think it was like the next day or something, and the bloodless, like nothing really happened, the hits kind of thing. And Shang-Chi, that was a good scene by any means, but it just did not have the same weight or feeling at all as to the bus scene in Nobody. Do you know what I mean? Comparing it, and it just, yeah, I think it deserves all the props it can get, that film.
And it's just the ending in the warehouse as well, when they're shooting the place up and You Never Walk Alone's in the background, and it's him and his dad back to back, twist, spinning round. There's just You Never Walk Alone in the background. It's like,
yeah, you're right. So I never even touched on the character of his dad, and that was brilliant as well to see the guy from Back to the Future back and doing that. And I thought he was going to be taken out. I thought something was going to happen to him, and for him to be a badass as well, and the back and forth he had and all that. Yeah, that's perfect, man. It's great.
And plus, I went to see it with my dad, and my dad's 66 or whatever, and he loved it as well. So I think if it transcends 2 generations of people, I think it's done something right. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no, definitely.
I will need to give it a watch at some point. Sadly, I have seen movies such as Black Widow, where the action wasn't quite so grounded, but I have yet to have time to see Nobody. But so on that burn of Marvel, we are going to move to the number 1, and let's face it, apart from Nathan, it is in everyone's top 1 or 2, and it is Spider-Man No Way Home. Could there have been a different winner this year in a channel called Geekified? Come on, Nathan. A channel called Geekified? Maybe a channel called Noir Cool Artsy House Films. Maybe. But Geekified, it had to be Spider-Man No Way Home. And I'm going to start the conversation with Chris. What is it you loved so much about No Way Home?
Like I said, the best thing for me, I think, is the fact that it was 2.5 hours long, 2 hours 30-something minutes long, and it felt like I was in the cinema for 5. It was absolutely phenomenal. Every single moment just flew by. It was so enjoyable. It was so much fun. And to have that, it kind of was a bit weird to have that weird reaction when, spoiler alert, Toby and Andrew Garfield appear. And then there was people jumping out of their seats, absolutely screaming. And it was really weird in that moment because it hasn't happened for so long in a film. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought, oh no, that was good. That was really good. That to have that amazing reaction off of people was absolutely brilliant. And it was just it was one of those films. It was just, it had action, it had such good comedy, and it wasn't bad comedy, which a lot of these films seem to hit with. It's always like kind of jokes that don't really land, and they kind of land and they don't, and then it's like jokes maybe for kids, and it wasn't. It was just downright funny and enjoyable and fun, and it didn't make itself fit too much into what's coming, or it was a one complete film. And this was my worry about Spider-Man, that it wasn't. It was going to just tie into loads, and it wasn't. It still stands its own ground as a film, full stop.
Well, we did have that debate the other day, though, is where is Spider-Man No Way Home in comparison to Loki? You know, Loki has just split the multiverse wide open, and we kind of thought that final battle in No Way Home would connect. Yeah. And it doesn't at all. So
it must somehow, and it must be something we're going to find out that somehow it does connect. I don't know why it wouldn't. I mean, somewhere or another.
I agree with you there, Ryan. I think it's strange that it doesn't connect. But I mean, yeah, when I went to the cinema to go see this with Chris, and at the time I said it's not as good as Infinity War, so I'm not going to give it a 5 out of 5. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. But I take that statement back and I give it a 5 out of 5. The more I've thought about this movie, the more I've thought it is peak Marvel storytelling. It is, they pandered to the fans, but that's why they're multi-billionaires. You know,
in the best way. They pandered to the fans in the best way. I feel like I feel the same after I walked out. I mean, the film's not without its flaws, and we put all this in our. And I never got to make the kind of review of it, but I was otherwise had to do other stuff. But after I first came out, talking to some people I've seen it with, it's not without its flaws, just in some basic wee story bits, but it does have the thing I said in our kind of preview thing is what I really wanted is it's got heart and tons of it, man. Do you know what I mean? Like it felt, as you were saying, it felt like it was its own story. It had things, and like take everything else away, plot holes, whatever, the resolution and the heart we had for Andrew Garfield, Spider-Man, and Tobey Maguire and all that, it was like me and my cousin and all that, and these are all big guys fighting MMA and stuff, and we're all bubbling like little girls in the front seats when he saved like MJ and all that, and he's looking at her and he's like, yeah, like, you can see it in his eyes and all that, and then Aunt May and everything, man, it wasn't a dry eye in the whole of the front row, but well, it was excellent. It was.
So Nathan, you're disagreeing with almost every glowing comment about No Way Home.
I'm not. I've said it. There's 95% of this movie is great, but just the way that the spell thing at the start, where it's just really a really weak bit of storytelling, and it almost ruined the movie for me. And that's the one. I really enjoyed it, but it wouldn't go in my top 10. In fact, it's not in my top 10 because of that. Because of that, I mean, bear in mind I watch a lot of movies, but it just wouldn't go in my top 10 because of that very weak bit of storytelling.
You're not wrong there, but I think the rest of it supersedes it, basically.
Yeah,
but that's the basis of the whole story, is that he's messing about. It's like this stupid interaction with him and Doctor Strange about that spell, and it's just that's the whole
uni thing. All about getting into uni. Yeah, I agree. That's not the stakes should have been higher there. I think it should have been something rather than just that rewording some things. Could have, there would have been no drama rewording things. But yeah, I think the rest of it does pull it off, man. I do.
No, so do I. But that's why it's not my top 10 because of that weak bit of storytelling at the start.
That's fair.
What you wanting to say, Nick? You seem like you're.
Yeah. So like. I think even if you're going to do it, like Tom Holland's Peter Parker's 17 or something in it. Mm-hmm. University or college in America's, the biggest thing, biggest progress a kid can do.
But Doctor Strange is in his 30s. But Doctor Strange is in his 30s, so he knows better. He's supposed to be this all-wise wizard. So
yeah, but again, he may know better. But for a kid at 17 in America, that's like the biggest thing for them. Is obviously university or college, and the fact that his two friends missed out on it because of him, that's where it kind of comes in. But in terms of the film itself, like that's 3 generations worth of the character and the franchises and I think they just melded it all brilliantly. And obviously, as I said in the other with the review of it, the fact of the comic lines that they obviously took it based off of as well, and how they kind of mixed all that in. It was really well done. But it's whilst I agree that as a cinema goer, and you look at other sort of films and that, I do agree it is perhaps not the best set of stakes to have in terms of world-ending things that could have happened. But I think considering that the focus is on Peter and his relationship with Ned and MJ, and the fact that because of him being Spider-Man and everyone finding out, his costume obviously places at college and stuff, which is obviously the massive thing over there. So I think if you take it in relation to what the story is, those stakes are high enough for him personally. So I just think it's one of the ones that you just got to add up and just kind of take with the punches. To be honest, I know you probably don't agree, but
I agree. The heart actually comes from how stupidly small the initial stake is. It shows that Peter is just a kid still, that he's not looking at being an Avenger anymore. He's gone from craving to be an Avenger to realizing, actually, no, I've got so much growing up and so much life still before he wants to be punched to death by a giant purple ball sack. And that's what he wants to do in this one. And I think that's where the heart comes from this one. It's very much a Sam Raimi Spider-Man in that sense.
Yeah, I thought so. Mm-hmm.
Grounded, more believable in that sense. It's not aliens and threats from other dimensions, although it is technically Spider-Man. Oh no, it's threats from other dimensions. Scrap that whole last bit. And so maybe not that grounded.
But I know what you mean. I do know what you mean from it, but it's not big aliens and spaceships and blah blah. It is a more kind of, even though it is other dimensions, it is still dealing with Peter Parker and other dimensions and stuff like that. It's still kind of more grounded to him. And by the end of it, he is the Spider-Man. We all want, like, he is that kind of Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, living in his own apartment himself. He's got his phone with his wee police scanner instead of any Stark tech and all that. That's, I'm happy to see where that goes now.
All I want, if they do the next Spider-Man, is that he gets the apartment like he does in Spider-Man and Friends, and Firestar and Iceman are in there as well. Presses the button and it all flips round into a really cool Stark type place. That's what I want to happen.
Yeah.
It could be X-Men are coming in.
You never know.
So
that's the first prediction.
Next person to butt in my conclusion is getting kicked out of the call, by the way. Okay. And so there is our top 5 of 2021. There was many other movies such as The French Dispatch, Belfast, Army of the Dead, Only Chris, Only Chris, Only Chris, House of Gucci, Cop Shop, and Justice League. They were all there, but sadly did not make the top cut. So Chris, we're going to give you 5 minutes to defend Army of the Dead being in your top 5. Go.
Just to 5 minutes, is that all? Because I could talk for days.
5 minutes.
I have watched this so many times now, like so many times. It is brilliant. It is good action. It is good comedy. It is fun. It is zombies. It is just insane, and it's just beyond enjoyable.
Fair enough. I couldn't get past the first 15 minutes, so I do not know what it's got past the first 15 minutes. So I cannot comment.
That's the best of it as well, Mark. Don't get any better than that.
Well, I'm glad I gave up. So there you have it. That is our top 5 and the start of our worst 5. Up next is our top 5 television shows. So please tune in tomorrow, I guess, will be when that one comes out. I don't know when this will come out. It's up to our,
like the day after it.
So yes, thank you for joining us for our top 5 from Chris, from Nathan, from Nick, Tony, and Ryan. Thank you very much. Enjoy 2022, people. Catch you later.